everyone, and welcome to this Astranti video where we're going to try and identify the top 10 most likely unseen issues for our pre-seen company AmaZZZing Beds for the November 2020 and February 2021 exam sittings. Now, before we get any further with our analysis, there are a few points of clarification that I would like to make. So first and foremost, we don't unfortunately have a crystal ball in front of us when making this video. And so this video essentially represents our best guess about key topics that may be tested, key scenarios that may be tested by CIMA based on our knowledge of the pre-seen, okay? So this is not a foolproof guide to the topics that will come up in November or February and should be treated accordingly. Somewhat linked into this, again, is the idea that we are simply picking 10 of the most important issues that we've identified as part of our reading of the pre-seen, okay? So there may well be topics that are important to this company that don't fit into this top 10 format that we have here, okay? So something like marketing is a good example for AmaZZZing Beds. So just because a topic or a scenario is not included in this top 10 list does not mean that it won't be tested in the exam. Okay, so again, something to keep in mind when watching this video. So before we get into our top 10 issues themselves, I'm just going to explain in a little bit more detail the basis behind my choice of these top 10 factors, okay? So this choice is based on a range of different factors. So the first factor that's influenced my decision making in regards to this video is the focus that particular issues are provided within the pre-seen, okay? So firstly, this can relate to the space, for example, that's devoted to particular issues. As I've talked about throughout my pre-seen analysis, CIMA include information within the pre-seen. They signpost information in the pre-seen to provide them with something to test when it comes to the actual exam itself. Okay, so if we see a particular piece of information that has been included in a reasonable level of depth, for example in the pre-seen, then this gives a fairly strong indication that CIMA will look to either test a particular theory or test a particular scenario in relation to it. Okay, so as part of my choice for this video, I've been looking out for this signposting essentially by CIMA. I've then linked this in to the degree of importance that is attached to particular topics by the examiner, okay? So something like costing or budgeting, for example, we know to form prominent parts of key core activities upon which you are examined for the OCS exam. And so therefore these have high degrees of importance attached to them, and I'm going to be on the lookout for any reference to them in the pre-seen, okay? And this will then naturally translate to important issues of this nature being included as part of my top 10 analysis. Moving away from sort of CIMA's design of the pre-seen to focus a little bit more specifically on the pre-seen company in and of itself, I've also tried to pick out items, tried to pick out topics which are of particular importance to AmaZZZing Beds from a strategic point of view. So if you've watched our strategic analysis video, you will know that we've designed a SWOT analysis based on this company and our knowledge of this business. Well, many of the issues which are important to this business in terms of its SWOT analysis will also feature as part of my top 10 issues, okay? So for example, if we see a key area of threat or a key area of opportunity that the business should look to be either exploiting or mitigating going forward, then this will likely be a highly examinable topic for CIMA. It'll be highly relevant to the business's strategic development and will therefore likely feature within my top 10 analysis. Linked to this from a slightly more practical point of view is the importance attached to potential issues by individual directors, okay? So within this particular pre-seen, we have a number of specific references of specific directors being interested in specific issues, okay? And again, this sort of signpost areas in which the business might look to develop going forward, and therefore is CIMA signposting potential topics that they might use to base a scenario in your exam around. Finally, I've also taken into account my sort of past experience and past knowledge about the topics that CIMA like to test at OCS and the types of questions that typically come up in exams, okay? So if we have a topic, so something like risk, for example, that is highly testable, that comes up in most OCS exams in some form, then this will likely be an important topic once again for our new pre-seen company and would likely therefore feature in my top 10. Linked to this are typical issues that often come up at OCS and within OCS exams. So things like new product developments, new projects, for example, are really common scenarios within exams, as they're really easy ways for CIMA to test you on a wide variety of different topics. Okay, so again, these sort of typical issues will have formed part of my thinking when producing this top 10 list. And finally, I've also tried to consider how easy it is to write in relation to particular issues or on particular subjects. Okay, so as I've just talked about, something like a product development scenario or something like a new project is a really easy scenario for CIMA to use as a base to test a wide range of the relevant content for the OCS exam. So scenarios like this specific topics which meet this categorization have also formed part of my consideration here. In terms of how to use this video to prepare for your exam, there are a number of tips that we would suggest. Firstly, you can use this sort of top 10 structure as a basis to prepare key models that you are aware of from your wider OT studies in relation to specific information within the pre-scene. Okay, so as a general example, something like Porter's value chain, for example, if relevant as part of our top 10, could be applied to the pre-scene company as part of your revision. You could build up your knowledge about the company in relation to this model in advance. And then crucially, you could apply this to the actual exam itself. The crucial part of this step, however, is the application to the exam and crucially the unseen material provided here. Yes, you can do a little bit of pre-planning, you can do a little bit of pre-preparation based around these top 10 issues and models relevant to them, but crucially you must remember to adapt all work that you do to the new points you come up against in the unseen, okay? If you simply go in to the exam with pre-prepared responses, with pre-prepared answers, then you're going to score poorly. These exams are all about applying your existing knowledge to the pre-scene, yes, but also to the specific unseen scenarios that you get in the exam, okay? So this further application in the exam is absolutely vital. You can also use this video as part of practicing mock exams, okay? So you can identify past mock questions or say Astranti mock questions that cover the key issues that we include in this video, and this therefore allows you to get a little bit of exam practice with scenarios that specifically tackle some of the key issues in relation to the pre-scene, okay? Here at Astranti, we try and produce our mocks in line with this top 10 issues list, okay? So many of these issues should hopefully be covered in the variety of mocks that we produce for OCS. You can also use this video to help find real life examples, so industry examples to apply in the exam itself. Obviously, the examiners like you to demonstrate relevant industry knowledge to particular questions and particular scenarios. So with this in mind, you can potentially prepare sample paragraphs for relevant exam issues in relation to these top 10 scenarios, and then you can learn them and apply them in the actual exam. Somewhat linked to the first point that we made, but as well as preparing key models based on pre-scene information, you can also learn typical key points in relation to key theory, okay? So something like different costing or budgeting systems is a really good example here. These are topics that will likely be tested in the exam in some way, as we've talked about, so you can prepare a little bit in advance by learning the typical advantages, disadvantages and applicability of these different systems, these different processes, and this gives you a really good base for a topic that will likely be tested in the exam, okay? So tailoring your theory revision as much as possible. And finally, again, sort of linked to the first point that we talked about, but by understanding some key issues that may well come up in the exam, you can obviously be prepared for particular models, for example, that can be used to support the issue that you come up against, okay? So we obviously want to see a mix of theory knowledge and applicability in these OCS exams. And so by having some sort of models, some key theory sort of set up in relation to key issues, you can firstly demonstrate your theory, but then crucially you can build on this and apply this to the specific unseen scenarios you get in the exam. Okay, so with all that introductory information out the way, let's get cracking and let's get into the analysis of our top 10 issues in a bit more detail. Now, the first thing to say before I get into issue number 10 in a little bit more detail is that these issues are not ranked in terms of importance. So issue 10 is just as important as issue 1. We are purely assigning numbers to them for the formatting for the purpose of this top 10 video. So as you can see on screen, issue 10 for AmaZZZing Beds is manufacturing. Now, the basis of my choice for this factor centres around a number of areas. From the most simplistic point of view, this is obviously a key area of our pre-seen company AmaZZZing Beds operations, okay? So yes, we have a retailer here, but also we have a manufacturer of mattress and bed products. So there's no getting around this sort of simple point, and there's no getting around the fact that therefore manufacturing is a crucial area and a crucial issue for this business. More specifically, however, I think we have a key area of growth for the business going forward. And linked to this, we have a key area where AmaZZZing Beds needs to make some improvements, okay? So we've seen in the pre-scene how production director for the business is looking to improve this area of operations. He's looking to increase the number of own brand products that AmaZZZing Beds manufactures. So clearly we have an area in which the business is going to look to develop going forward. And therefore we have a highly testable topic as a result of these hints in the pre-scene. But from a more specific technical point of view, we also have an area where AmaZZZing Beds performance needs to improve. We identified significant potential bottlenecks, areas of inefficiency and wastage within AmaZZZing Beds' quite traditional, quite outdated production operations from the pre-scene. And so the fact that we have these issues within the pre-scene is clearly CIMA signposting potential areas of improvement for this company, and clearly therefore signposting potential testable topics from an exam point of view. Another important consideration, or another important factor which contributed to my choice of this issue, is I think the underlying sort of make or buy considerations that we have throughout this business and its operations, okay? So I think the balance between the company's retail and manufacturing operations going forward is going to be really interesting. We see, for example, that the company has much better margins on its own manufactured products. But in contrast to this, we see that the retail side of things is key to the business's strategy going forward. Okay, so how the business continues to balance the buying in of bed and mattress products and the construction of these products themselves, I think is going to be really important, and is therefore, again, a potentially testable issue for CIMA. Finally, linking all these points together, this is a topic that is really easy for CIMA to examine in a massive variety of different ways, okay? So purely from an F1 point of view, we have a number of specific accounting standards that are relevant to a potential manufacturing related question, from IAS 16, from the leases standard all the way through to accounting for assets held for sale and things like discontinued operations. And that's before we even get into P1, where of course a huge amount of the content in this syllabus is relevant to a manufacturing business, okay? From things like costing, budgeting and variance analysis, all the way through to many of the key sort of decision-making related topics within this syllabus are highly relevant to a company of this nature. So a really easily examinable issue, and therefore an issue that we must really brush up on before the actual exam itself. In terms of specific issues that may come up in the exam, I think we may see issues in relation to an upgrade of the company's production facilities. This has been referenced specifically in the pre-scene in relation to the profile for our production director. Okay, so we may well get a scenario where we're having to deal with the fallout or help deal with an upgrade to this company's manufacturing facilities. Linked to this, we may well get a scenario where we're having to identify and address potential bottlenecks and areas of inefficiency within the company's operations. Okay, so we know that lots of these are in play in relation to areas like mattress assembly, for example. So how can we identify and overcome these using our P1 knowledge? Issues like quality control are always going to be relevant to a business of this nature, where the functionality of products is so important. So thinking about ways in which we can maintain the quality environment within our manufacturing operations is going to be crucial. And then linked to the area of inefficiency that we just talked about, the issue of wastage again is something that I think could well be relevant and could be a testable issue. And then moving away from the P side of things, there are of course a range of F1 standards, as I've just mentioned, that we could be tested on as part of the financial accounting side of production changes of this nature, okay? So in terms of some of the key points that you must raise, I think it's crucial that you have a pretty Sound knowledge of the company's production operations. Obviously, you don't need to go into detail about the detailed processes or the materials, that sort of thing. But I think you need to have a good general overview of these processes and where particular issues lie, okay? So, for example, particular areas of inefficiency and bottlenecks, I think it's really important for you to be able to sort of identify and address these, particularly in areas like the assembly of mattresses, for example. I think it's really important that you sort of are aware of and can raise issues related to the outdated nature of the company's production operations and the benefits that production technology could potentially provide. The importance of quality and controlling this as part of production, again, is another crucial part of this process. So obviously the functionality of the company's products over a long period of time is crucial to the business's continuing success. So being aware of this and being aware of how the business can maintain and control this is crucial. Being aware of the different areas of cost as part of this company's production operations and how these can maybe be cut down or made more efficient is another important area that you could raise in the exam. So specifically, we maybe looked at how the company's direct costs, for example, are quite high. And so maybe considering ways in which these could be cut back or made more efficient is a potential sort of key area for you to address. And finally, there are a plethora of points in regards to the sort of make or buy decision that I've just been talking about in regards to the company's products. Okay, so really ensuring that you understand the ins and outs of the different aspects of this decision, and then being able to demonstrate this knowledge in a potential exam question would be quite important. Okay. And then in terms of specific theory that could be relevant to this issue, there are obviously things like quality management, so total quality management, for example, maybe its applicability to this company. There are things like throughput accounting and the theory of constraint, which I think are going to be particularly relevant to this business given the bottlenecks that we've identified. From maybe more of an E-based perspective, we can consider models like Porter's value chain, so how the business adds value as part of the primary activities of its operations to the end consumers that it sells products to. There are then a range of relevant topics in regards to things like limiting factor analysis and linear programming, so overcoming resource limitations that a business may have, and the whole sort of scheduling side of things of production are relevant here. We have some of the more decision-making topics coming into play, so things then like the various considerations, both financial and non-financial, associated with things like discontinuation decisions. And then, of course, similar in regards to our make or buy, what are the financial or non-financial factors in play here? Break-even analysis is always a highly testable topic at P1 and is very relevant to a company with such detailed manufacturing operations as AmaZZZing Beds. And then, of course, we have the range of F1 specific standards that I've talked about a couple of times. So IFRS 16, IAS 16, IFRS 5 and IAS 10 are just a few that spring to mind. Well, I've got your attention at the end of this video. I would just like to make you aware of some of the other products that Astranti sells for our case study courses. So the first of these are a series of study text and tuition videos, okay? And we have two aspects to the series. So firstly, we have an exam technique study series for you, okay? And this is a range of study text chapters and accompanying videos for those of you who are more visual learners, breaking down the key aspects of success at the various case study levels, okay? So here we're looking at exam technique, we're looking at things like writing style, we're looking at things like planning, all these key aspects that you need to have really nailed down to be successful in these exams. You'll find how to sort of brush up on these areas in this exam technique series. And then to accompany this, we have a revision series dedicated to the theory side of things. So obviously there is a huge amount of theory to sort of brush up on when it comes to the case study exam. So what we've done in these series is we've taken the key areas of theory for each of the 3 case study levels. We've condensed these into a sort of series of study text chapters and again accompanying videos for those of you who are more visual learners to provide you with a more focused sort of theory revision when it comes to the case study, okay? Moving away from the more generic products to the more specific products we create each sitting for the designated pre-scenes that CIMA release. First and foremost, we have our pre-scene analysis video series, okay? So first and foremost, this consists of 6 videos where we break down the relevant pre-scene at the relevant level of the qualification, page by page in significant levels of detail, okay? Bringing out all the key points that are going to be relevant for your exam. And we then supplement this with 2 additional videos. So we have a strategic analysis video and a top 10 issues video, also focused on the designated pre-scene for each level for the specific sitting in question. We then provide an industry analysis document and accompanying video. Okay, so CIMA like to see you demonstrate wider industry knowledge when it comes to the exam. And what this industry analysis therefore does, it help you cater to this particular request on CIMA's behalf. Okay, so essentially what we've done is we've compiled all the key bits of information about the relevant industry into one big document to save you having to do this as part of your revision. And we produced a video accompanying this, picking out some of the particularly key points. We also produced a number of mock exams for every sitting. So we write 5 mock exams for each level in the first sitting of the 6-month exam window. And then we add 2 more supplementary mocks on top of this for anyone resitting when it comes to the second sitting within the new 6 months exam window. Okay, and we design these mocks to be very specific around key issues relevant to the pre-scene. We try to make them as lifelike as possible in terms of CIMA's real life exams. Okay, so these are a great way to practice your exam technique and your knowledge about the pre-scene company under timed conditions. And then to add further value to this product, we also offer marking and feedback, a marking and feedback service. So we have a range of great, highly skilled finance professionals working as freelance staff for us. And it's these staff who conduct the marking and feedback service that we provide to you. Okay, so this is a really great service to use in conjunction with our mock exams to really give you a great idea of how you are progressing and the areas that you need to work on before the actual exam itself. If you're still in need of extra exam practice and you've run out of mock exams that we supply, we also provide a more generic question pack product. Okay, so obviously there is only a specific amount of questions that you can write about a specific pre-scene, and so what these question packs are is a series of generic questions on generic scenarios that we've come up with here at Astranti, whereby we look to test specific topics that come up regularly at case study exam. Okay, so if there is a particular topic that you're struggling with and we've maybe tested it once in our mocks but you'd like some more practice on it, then these question packs would be a really great product for you to turn to, as we have all the key topics that are likely to be tested covered within these. Okay, the penultimate product on this list is a product for those of you out there who like to get a full overriding picture in terms of your revision all at once. And these are our masterclasses. Okay, so we have expert tutors who hold 2 masterclass sessions for every exam sitting. And these essentially cover all key aspects that you're going to need to know for your relevant exam. Okay, so from particular pieces of theory, from an analysis of the pre-scene, all the way through to tips and ideas about exam technique. And finally, such is the confidence that we have in the quality of our products and the quality of our course, that if you do purchase a full course from us and you unfortunately do not pass your exam using our products, then we will offer what is known as a pass guarantee. Okay, so if you're a full course student who fails using our materials, we will provide you with our materials free of charge for the next sitting in the hope that you pass second time around. Okay, so thank you very much for listening to that. I hope you find our products useful, and of course I'd like to wish you best of luck from everyone here at Astranti for your exams.